Okay, so we just wanted to start off by thanking everybody for returning to your session here at Mayerson with Generation Schools Network. And we really appreciate that you want to continue your learning and deepening your knowledge of advisory so that we can ensure all students are meeting success in all areas of their academic and social life to prepare to be productive citizens. So we're really excited to have you all here. We know that everybody has very busy schedules. And it's not easy to carve out 3 hours during the week, so we really appreciate that and hope that we can make your time as well utilized as possible. So you remember me, my name's Katie Peaton. I was here last time, and I work with Generation Schools Network here in Cincinnati as the implementation manager with our new school, a new charter school, Cincinnati Generation Academy. But I also spend a lot of time doing projects like this and coming out and speaking to teachers as much as I can. And also we have...
Hello everybody, I'm John Reinhardt. I'm our VP of Learning and Teaching, and I'm based in our Denver office. So it's nice to be here in lovely Midwest and a beautiful day today. So
just wanted to take a minute to review the agenda that we're going to be hitting today, and I also have it posted over here so that you guys can follow along as the slides change and you can keep track of what the schedule and the agenda might look like. But we are going to start by reviewing the learning objectives. We're going to recap the first session just for a couple of minutes so we can cement that learning into our brains. We're going to try another type of greeting and another type of sharing together so that everybody can see another version of that in action. Then, based on the survey that everyone filled out after the first session, we have selected the two most high-ranking level of interest activities to focus on today. So the first one is team building exercises and activities that you can implement in your advisory period. And the second one after the break is using mindfulness in advisory and how that might work. So this is an easier way, I'll just tell you right now, calling it mindfulness is an easier way of saying meditation so that it kind of is an easier pill to swallow because people tend to be put off when we talk about meditation. So we're going to refer to it as mindfulness today and how we might be able to implement those techniques within our advisories. And then, of course, questions, reflection, and evaluation at the end. We're going to be using that same Google site for your collab that you guys can ask questions, post discussions, evaluate this session from last time, which we look forward to seeing. Do you want to go over the objectives?
Sure. So today, as Katie just mentioned, we're going to focus on, based upon the survey that you all, come on in. Completed, we're going to be focusing on implementing team building activities that you all can take back. So you're actually going to go through those and experience those firsthand with us. And Katie and I will be kind of helping to facilitate and guide you in those things. And then we're going to explain the benefits of practicing mindfulness and the reasons why mindfulness is a valuable tool for schools. And then introduce mindfulness to their advisory students. And I just want to say, before we go forward, I just want to ask a question. How many people in here have ever done yoga? So a lot of people, right? I mean, I actually started yoga. I live in Colorado. It is a huge activity in Colorado. A lot of yoga studios, a lot of yoga instructors. And I hadn't thought about this till Katie and I were meeting with Mary last week and kind of going over the workshop today. And when she started talking about mindfulness, I started thinking about, well, what do I do in my yoga class? So I share that with you because, you know, I don't know what your class is like, but in my class in Colorado, we spend a lot of time on this topic around mindfulness, particularly at the end of our yoga session, where we're in a quiet time and we're kind of clearing our head and doing those kind of things. So I don't know if you kind of can relate to that, but it really made me think about, oh, well, this is really a practical example of what it's like in a yoga class. You know, when your instructor says, I want you to clear your head and have positive energy and positive thoughts flowing and those kind of things, and you really get really quiet. You know how that is at yoga at the very end? To me, that's mindfulness. So I got to share that with you because it hit home for me. I was like, because I'm thinking, have I ever meditated? Well, actually I have in yoga class. Every class I go to, there's a time that I do that. So I just wanted to share that with you because I know some people are like, what is mindfulness? Well, that's really a practical example. There's probably other things, you may go for a hike and whatever, and you're just having that quiet time. So I just wanted to share that with you as a kind of a practical example.
Thanks. So just some agreements that we also had last time, just norms for this type of meeting. We know everybody's adults. If you need to take a bathroom break, take a call, make a text, etc., we ask that you just step outside to do that quickly so that you can come back in and use this space for the activities that we're focused on now. and also that you ask questions. So be present and ask questions. There's no question too large, too small, impromptu, at the wrong time. Feel free to jump in at any point with questions. That's my norm that I always like to have in class. Are there any other norms or agreements that we want to put out for today? Okay, cool. Everybody in agreement with these two? Fantastic. Okay. So this is just some evaluation summary comments from our first session, which thanks everyone. I think almost everyone, if not everyone, actually took the time to fill out the evaluation, which is really appreciated because we want to make sure that we're doing the best job possible. So all the participants strongly agreed or agreed with most of or all of the evaluation questions. So thanks a lot for that feedback, and we're glad that you guys learned something that you thought that you could implement within your classroom and really bring that into practice on a day-to-day basis with your advisory. So like I said, these were the topics you most wanted to see. Team building activities we're doing today, teaching mindfulness we're doing today, and helping students build healthy relationships. That will come in one of your future collab sessions in the coming days. So we're going to start, like I said, with practicing our greeting and our sharing techniques. So we're going to really be cementing that, which is our learning for the first time. Can we just get a quick show of hands of the number of people that have done the greeting and the sharing in their advisories? Perfect. So we're going to talk about how that's been going, and that's great. But we're going to start by actually practicing the greeting. So if we could all circle up in the middle, that would be great. Mm-hmm.
We can all get in a circle. Great.
So just remember that when you're going through the teaching of greetings, that you want to make sure that you're reiterating the expectations until your kids are really getting it. So when you're greeting somebody, you're making eye contact with them. You're making sure that you're saying their name, and you make sure everybody's name gets said at least once during the greeting. So there's a lot of different ways that you could do that. So today we're going to do a little bit of a challenge greeting. We're going to do a foreign language greeting in our circle today. So you're going to have to greet your neighbor in a language that is not English. So if you need a little help, you might want to ask. This is a great time for you to think about how you can use maybe your bilingual students to teach other kids their language, which I started talking about last time. So we are going to go around in the circle, and I'm going to start like this. Guten Tag, Jean. Is it Jean?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, great.
Well, sure. Kate.
Thanks.
Sure. Savannah. Oh, that's mine.
You can use the same one. That's okay.
It's the same
Yeah,
one.
you can.
Hola.
Hola, Alma.
Alma.
¿Puedo decirle?
Debbie.
Hola, Debbie.
Nick.
Hola, Nick.
Hola, Alma. Hola,
Sandy.
Sandy. Hola, Sandy.
Hola, Nick.
Hola, Christian.
Hola, Sandy. Bridget. Tammy.
Aloha, Kristen.
Christian.
I'm just gonna say aloha, John.
And Guten Tag.
Guten
Katie.
Tag, John. Okay. So great job, everybody. Good job using a foreign language. I know it's not easy to step out of our comfort zones like that, so it was great. So just to debrief a little bit, did anybody have feelings or things that they thought was fun about using that type of greeting?
I like the difference that people are using different ones, not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So you had really an opportunity to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. And I think, too, especially as adults, like, for me, I'm not German at all, and I don't really know that much about it, but it's something that I've been exploring in recent years, and I actually went to Germany this summer, so I think, too, like, it's not necessarily that you have to have heritage or speak the language, but it could just be something that you're interested in. So it's a good way to learn about people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Anything else? Okay. So thanks for participating in the greeting. Now we're going to try and practice a sharing. So this type of sharing is called a snowball sharing. And what we want to do is we're going to take these pieces of notebook paper. And I'm going to say that everybody should rip it in half. So we're going to be writing 2 questions, 1 on each half. And you want to ask sort of a probing question of the rest of the people in the group about something that they've implemented in advisory since the last session. So it could be something that we talked about, or it could just be a general question, you know, if you want to just open it up to how's your advisory going, that's fine. But we do want to kind of revisit and reiterate upon the topics that we talked about last time. So can anybody remember, just touching briefly on those topics, what we addressed last time?
The greetings and we did the circling.
Mm-hmm.
We did inside outside circle. We did paired interviews. 1 of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Kids.
Sure can. So we talked a lot about greetings and sharings. And then what was another major topic we went over last time?
We went over, well, we listened to interviews regarding a book
Uh-huh.
which talks about how a lot of students bring in things from the outside in, which is sometimes hard for us to be able to solve, which is, so having advisory will help us kind of connect with the students to see what's going on at home and how we could better help them.
Precisely. You nailed it right on the head. So it was all about like stress and how kids are dealing with fight or flight. So that was some of the big topics we talked about last time. So you guys can head back to your seats and write down these questions. And then you're actually, as soon as you write them down, you're going to crumple them up just like your kids do all the time and you try to make them not crumple them up. We're going to do the opposite of that today.
We want you to crumple them up.
So the question is something we learned from last time.
Yeah, so a probing question to the rest of the group.
So you're asking a question.
You're asking a question, precisely. You're asking the question. It could be something about how you incorporated from last time. It could be a more general question. You just want to ask a question of the group.
And just toss it out there in the middle of the floor once you've done it. So we want you to do 2 each. If you could, please. Yeah, just throw it right there in the middle of the floor. You have permission to throw the paper wad on the floor today.
I have my girl stand up and throw it in trouble. They do. It's fun. They love it. They get up.
Kind of permission to do something that they probably would like to do.
It's fun. It doesn't hurt anybody.
No, right. Well, that was kind of a weak effort there, huh?
I know. You don't want to be in a snowball fight, right?
And then once everybody's got their questions, we're gonna. What's the next piece?
It's they grab them.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna ask you if you want them to come back into the middle.
That's what it says. Circle back out.
Yeah, it doesn't really say. It just says answer them.
She's got one. She's got one. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I would say circle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks everyone. So we're actually going to circle back up and like we were before so that we can see each other a little bit more closely and share what we are. Also easier access to reaching the balls, which is the next step.
Yep. So if we can get everybody to circle back up
Yeah,
again.
circle back up, sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, this kind of helps to randomize the process, gets kids asking each other questions, not knowing. I think one of the problems, especially in advocacy, is that people always want to group up with their peers, kids they already have relationships with, and so they're more likely to answer questions of students they already know. So this helps to randomize the process, and they just have to grab and answer any question, which also helps to challenge them. So do we have a volunteer to go first?
I will.
Basically, just grab an answer. Yeah, sorry. Basically, just grab an answer. Thank you so much.
Oh, I have to answer. I get to ask the question.
You get to answer it. So if you read us the question, and if it's your own, throw it back.
It's not.
Okay, so read us the question and then answer.
Okay. What are ways we can get students to move around but still be learning about each other? Well, this is a good activity, the
Mhm.
snowball activity. I have used that in my classroom. And I have, if you do Kagan activities in your school, there are questions that you can, like quiz trade type things. Tell me if I'm making any sense or not.
You make a sense.
So everybody gets up and they have a question that they're going to ask someone, and then you ask to greet just like we just did, and then I ask you a question, you ask me a question, we thank each other, we trade cards, then we go ask some more. So I think it is great to get the kids up and moving. So I don't know, did I answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Does anybody have another idea they want to throw out?
Bless you.
I did a greeting where you have like just a list of questions, and you're sitting in a circle and you read a question, or you read a fact or a statement, and if that applies to you, you get up and you shake, you greet somebody, and then you go sit back down, and then you read another question, and you can kind of see just like different facts about each other, and then they find like who has commonalities with them in the room.
Ooh, on that note, and I've done this only with adults, I think, when you're all in a line, and then you say, if you have brothers, take a step forward. And
Mhm.
then everybody that has brothers,
Mhm.
then you go back. And then if you love reading, you know what I mean? You ask those kind of questions, and then they only move if they answer it. So that's very similar to what you just said.
One of the advisories, as a matter of fact, we just did that for, conflict outcomes. One was that they're actually sitting in a chair, and except for one person. So it's sort of like musical chairs. There's just one chair short. We don't remove chairs. And they stand in the middle and they say something that they've never done. And anybody that has done it, they get up and then they switch places and areas, and the last one standing, and they say something they haven't done. So
It's like I like people who.
Okay. Any volunteer to grab a next question?
Okay.
Thank you.
Have you had any students share any personal issues? Yeah, I guess we just had recently, and I think it's just helping like them feel safe and how to deal with that. And I was listening to a girl today who had an advisory, and she had a kid text her just last night about some really horrible things that are going on, and thoughts of suicide and things like that. And it's hard to deal with, but it's like, I guess it makes you realize the impact that you have on those kids that maybe they don't get in other places.
Great.
I think one of the things that we've found in working with teachers and students in advisory for several years is that, to your point, the more you get to know your kids, the safer they feel within that that small circle of advisory. And it's amazing, like watching like some of our kids at our school in Denver that are now have been with us 3 or 4 years, and the things that they share now that like 2 or 3 years ago they would have never shared it, and now they have that relationship with their advisor that they feel pretty safe and confident in that small family unit, and they'll share stuff, and it's like the teachers are like, wow, this is the kid that last year hardly said anything in advisory, and now they've really opened up. So yeah, that safety and security is a big thing.
Great. Anybody, you guys can jump in.
This is great. How do you deal with a student who is determined to be counterproductive?
Right.
I think it depends on the student. Like some of my students need their space, and then they need to be kind of talked to. Other students need consequences, so it kind of depends. I think on my students.
Determined to be, what was it? Counterproductive? I mean, I think this goes into too, like a lot of what we talked about last time with dealing with stress and how they can't really handle what their emotions are telling them to do. Is just something that takes time. So we're still kind of early in the year for advisory. So if a person is still not participating within that space and they're being counterproductive, it would need a lot of talking about them, but it would just be too like focusing on what's going well, and just that person will eventually come into the fold, I think. Anybody can jump. Okay. Thank you.
Do you have students who give one-word responses when sharing? I think we all probably have that. But we talk about, in language arts, interpretive questions and things that they read and how do you write a question. And so since I have all the students I have for advisory in language arts, it's a good system because we talk about, they'll help each other and they'll say, well, tell me why you think that, or can you tell me more about that? And so they help each other, and that helps. Anybody else have something?
I think too, one of the things, and I'm thinking more about like student discipline right now, and we're trying to incorporate those think sheets. So what was my trigger? What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? Do I need to apologize? That kind of thing. And through that, there's a lot of like, yes, this, I didn't, nothing. Like those are the responses. And again, it just takes time and it takes prompting and modeling for those kids and just making sure that they know you're on their side, and that's the point of being an advocate and an advisor. So they know that you're on their side and that you're going to help them model, and any kind of growth that they make is good growth, and that's what's important. Okay.
How is advisory going? Has its ups and downs. Ours, as you know, last week, ours is right after lunch. So we only have 20 minutes, and by the time it gets started and everybody shows up, it's down to like 15 minutes. So, I mean, we had a really good session on Tuesday, and the kids really enjoyed that, and they're getting more into it.
What was good about Tuesday?
Tuesday, that was the one where we did the circle and they stood in the middle and says, I never.
Oh, okay.
They just had a lot of trouble coming up with, and then it's like, well, Miss Jackson, it's like, Miss Jackson, you got to think about it. I said, well, you got to remember, I'm at least 30 years older than most of you all, so I got to think of something that you all would have done that I haven't done. So.
What's working for you? Well, I don't have an advisory.
You can just talk about your class in general.
Oh wow, what's working for me? I was just talking to my dear, like, oh my God, I need help. What's working for me? Well, I'll tell you this, something I'm gonna do either Friday or Monday. I teach math, and I have kids who are reviewing for a test, and they just want me to keep telling them everything over and over and over and over again. What's the this? What's the that? What? I'm like, well, did you look in your notes? Did you look it up? Did you know, where are your notes, by the way? And so we're gonna just start from scratch and go over. You know, they like to get these lists of, okay, number 1, do this, number 2, do this, number 3, do this. So we're going to do that. We're going to make a list. When you study for a test, number 1, do this, 2, da. And I'm going to see how that works. And I'll let you know.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Good job displaying honesty, Nick. That's great.
What needs work, or what is not working? That's a good question. Since this is my first year as a teacher, first year as advisor, first year everything, I at first thought advisory as just kind of like an open thing. It was kind of like you come in, do, kind of sit wherever, and then that just went crazy. It was crazy. that treated it as a playground. So actually, I just recently made assigned seats. I don't know if that's where you're supposed to do advisory, but as I got to the point that's where I did, and it worked out great. They came to their seat, and it was just like more like a class environment. But at least
That's
we
great.
got stuff done, and people were listening to each other, and people weren't talking over each other. So that's what. So what was
Right,
not
yeah.
working? Oh, sorry. So I guess I answered two things. What wasn't working?
That's good.
Was not having procedures, and that conversation a couple weeks ago.
And I think like a lot of other things, assigned seats can get a bad rap with kids, and they can be like, they can react to it negatively, and they think it's too harsh. But if they see it as a mechanism of getting the class under control, I definitely, especially with middle schoolers, that's fine. If there's not control and there's not procedures, then nothing's going to get done, and it's fine if that's the case. So I think that's absolutely appropriate for advisory.
So here's a couple of practical examples that we've used in some other schools, and one is to have kind of assigned seating, but without you doing it, having the kids taking ownership. One is they can do it alphabetically. Okay, so you can say, I need you to sit alphabetically. Well, they have to problem solve that. Kind of back to your question. You're not telling them as the teacher. They have to like, oh, okay, you're Alan and I'm Jones, and they figure that out real quick, and that's how they're going to sit for your advisory. Or another one could be their birth dates in the year. And they really like that stuff because they're having to think, when's your birthday, and then they're like, oh, let me stay, I'm here, and that kind of stuff. So those are just two practical things you can do with kids, really, even big kids, high school kids. They like that stuff because it's all of a sudden it's not you assigning it, so it takes that burden off of you as a first year or a veteran teacher. It doesn't make any difference. So just a couple of practical things I've seen our teachers do that, and it's really easy. It's like, I need you to sit according to birthdays or height. If math, you could do it. There's all kinds of ways you could do it. It just takes the stress and the pressure off you as the advisor. So just a couple of practical things to think about.
Did everybody answer our question?
No, I think we've had some still.
What is a new greeting you have tried? Well, I did two. I did the one which you say like from 1 to 4, how do you feel? And then we did telephone to say their name and then like the word or just say their name. And that was the type of greeting we did. To just have someone talk to another person.
Great.
How about others? Anybody tried any other greetings? I wasn't here at first session, but I'd be curious if there are other greetings.
I did the shaking hands one. I just said that one in the class.
Oh, right. Like, see how many hands you can shake quickly? Yeah, that one's good.
Shake everyone's hand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have a jar that I use in morning meeting, and I put 130 greetings in there in the beginning of the year. So every day the kids draw a greeting out and do one. So sometimes it's like, would you rather be incredibly rich and have no friends, or would you rather be poor and have several really close friends? Or something like that. And then sometimes it's like, what's your favorite book? Or, it's a variety of things, but it's easy to like, they like drawing it out.
Where'd you come up with these 130?
I just sat down and like,
One
looked
day.
at some websites and just made it.
Do they all do the same one? So one person draws one out for the whole class and everybody greets that way. Okay.
Wow.
I like that.
I love that too because it gives them ownership. And we talked a little bit too about, especially with 7th and 8th graders, having one of them come up with the grading for the next day. So like, how do you want to do this tomorrow? So that's definitely something that we can still try out.
I have my greeting connect to the lesson that we're doing.
Oh, that's great.
Whatever we're doing in social studies and language arts or whatever, might be topical for the time. And so that way we're always doing different greetings because we have the same students. And then, it seems to work out and it helps them get thinking about something that relates to them that they don't realize. Well, they end up realizing that it connects to whatever the lesson is.
We've done highs and lows. So let's say today my high was, or the high of my week was whatever, and then they say their low.
One of my favorite, this is more of sharing than a greeting, it's answering a question, but one of my favorites is Hero of the Day. So every kid gets to identify who their hero was that day. Since a lot of you can have advisory in the middle of the day, so you might do like evening to morning, so I have a little bit more choice, but it really helps to identify like a different type of gratitude. So like a lot of times you do shout outs, or a lot of times you do thanks, but to identify somebody as really their hero and the person that got them through a tough time, I think is really important for kids. It's another good one. Okay, anything else? We can, does anyone want to answer another question?
I'll do one.
Okay, great.
Let me do one.
Okay,
I didn't put one in, but I'll do one. Okay.
Okay, great.
If I can answer it, maybe I need your all's help. So. Oh, okay. This is a good question. What's something you're still struggling with in advisory? So I'm asking you guys that question. What's something people are struggling with? If you're not, that's great. That's
Well, awesome. I feel like it's a large amount of students in a room, so it's hard to be able not to just let it be free. You kind of have to have structure, and then sometimes it doesn't work with so many students.
How big is your advisory?
24, like a
That's
class.
big. Yeah, it's a regular class.
Yeah.
So it doesn't.
It's a classroom.
It's like a class, so it doesn't work.
Yeah. I guess what I would say is that from just experience in watching teachers develop their advisories, that over time, with those proper kind of structures and protocols that you put in place and teach kids those things, even with juniors and seniors in high school, when they know like what your expectation is, I see our kids come into the advisory and it's like if the teacher already has like instead of us standing, they might have the chairs or desks like circled up, and the kids know like they come into advisory and they're sitting down. Either there may be a question like I need you to sit by age or birthday, one of those kind of things, and then the kid they just know the protocol. They come in and they get ready to go. And so I think your point was like sometimes you only have like 15 minutes, so that way we're not wasting time, and then the kids come right in because they want to get involved in what you're going to do with them that day. So I think that's what you'll see over time. At least that's been our experience, is as the kids get more comfortable with it, they take more ownership of the protocols, and so you don't have to say anything. They know like when they come to advisory, this is what we do every day, and then we're gonna, the activity may be different, or the greeting or the sharing, but that process. So just something to kind of think about. You gonna do one?
I would love to.
Okay.
Oh, this is a perfect segue. I did not plan this, I promise. What team building activities have you done with your class? So, I do a team building activity a lot that's called Trainwreck. Does anyone else play Trainwreck? It's sort of like what you were talking about, where they're identifying similarities. So one person will stand in the middle and say, my name's Katie and I was born in Ohio. And if you were also born in Ohio, then you stand up and you find another chair, and it's like, it lets them like run around, and it's like, but there's one less chair than what you need. So then that person would then be it. So that's my personal favorite team building activity, but that actually leads us into what we're talking about next. So we can go ahead and take our seats for team building.